Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, across the country. It's a throwdown on Tuesday, and boy, this is going to be a big one out of Cleveland, Ohio. It's the American Sports History Podcast, hosted by my good friend, a brother, a mentor, Peter Ray. Yours truly, Mark Mancini, producing it out here in Los Angeles. 347-205-9631 to hear it live. This thing will archive, and I know there's about 75 of you guys listening live right now. Try to get to all your questions, and this is going to be a biggie, as it usually is. But catch the archive on blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports podcast platforms, wherever you subscribe to, powered now by Mancini Media. So it's more him, less of me, as I lay the red carpet down, put the podium in its place, hand off the mic. First of all, Peter, how are you? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you? And third of all, you were kicking your heels when you knew this guy was coming through the show today.
Hi, Mark. I'm doing well. I have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Peter J. Ray, R-E-A, and you're absolutely right. Tonight's guest played in the NBA from 1983 to 1997 with the Houston Rockets, Cleveland Cavaliers, Atlanta Hawks, and Seattle Supersonics. He had a year in the minor league basketball with the Mississippi Jets. The man who hit the shot before the shot and then defended the shot. Welcome to the show, Mr. Craig Ehlo.
Hey, thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me. And, you just brought back a total wave of memories of playing for Ted Stepien, was the owner of the Mississippi Coast Jets.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, for Cleveland Cavalier owner earlier, apparently. Yep. Yeah. You said on James Donaldson's show you taught after that tough game in May 7th, 1989. The Cavs were expected to go farther, and they lost the first round in 5 games, and of course the shot. And then you talked with your father. What did your father say?
He was just super throughout my whole life, Peter, and he had me play all the sports, football, basketball, baseball, but when I got to high school, I went straight to specializing, I guess, with basketball. But after every little dribblers game to my last NBA game, the first thing he'd always tell me is that he just loved watching me play and that I brought joy to him. And there's nothing better than hearing your father's words after something that happened, like you just mentioned, in 1989 of, better team than the Chicago Bulls, beat them 6 times in the season. We had their number basically, and it came down to really just 6 seconds. The whole game was back and forth, and I don't think either team got up more than 5 or 7 points at a time. But with Chicago up by 1, we draw up a play, a give and go. Coach Wilkins knew exactly what to do, and it worked to perfection. It left those 3 seconds, and, of course, we knew who was on the other team and who they were going to get the ball to, because he was having a big series. And, Larry and I were put out there to double team him, and we just couldn't get it done. But, my dad just basically told me after the game, he called me like immediately. And he just said that, you were there. No one else was guarding him. It was you. All those people that will tell you something in the near weeks is going to be jealousy and wanting to be in your shoes. And that's all you need to tell them, was that I was there. I did it. I did my best. And that's all you need to know. And that kind of eased my pain. It didn't take the pain away, because I just said, we were a much better team than them that year. It was a hard pill to swallow until I heard those words.
Michael from Warren, Ohio. Long live Craig Ehlo. Many times saw you play. Darn Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan.
That is, I've heard that many times before. from all the fans that were in Cleveland, even when I was there and even when I left. So tell Michael, thank you.
Randy from Charlotte, North Carolina. Wow, congratulations, Peter. Your show is bigger than watching Cleveland Guardians baseball.
That's a tough one to swallow, too. I knew him with Chief Wahoo and as the Indians and all the history that came along with it. And, of course, they are still the Cleveland Indians, but times change and progress, you can't stop it. So we'll evolve, and we'll get used to that Guardian's name.
Steve from Del Mar, California. James and Peter, and then comes Karen Acer. Now you bring in the sharpshooter Craig Ehlo. Unbelievable each week.
Del Mar, is that they're surfers there, aren't they? Or is that the racetrack? The racehorses, I think, isn't it?
Tim from Youngstown, Ohio. Toughest opponent, Craig, that you guarded?
Oh, my gosh. The era of basketball that I played in was spectacular, and it just kept getting better and better. Each year that I played, I was able, being at a swing position, I was able to guard some small forwards, and Scottie Pippen was definitely one. Charles was somebody that I tried to guard and didn't have much success doing it. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Reggie Miller, Dominique Wilkins, and Bernard King. Who else? Adrian Dantley, Mark Aguirre. Isaiah Thomas was the first guy I guarded after I left the Mississippi Coast Jets. That was my first game as a Cavalier against the Pistons and had a really tough time guarding him. But, I got to say, the year that we made it to the conference finals in 1992, the first round was against the Nets, and Drazen Petrovic was averaging like 28, 29 points a game. We went to Boston actually came to us, and I had to guard Reggie Lewis, which he was a star in his own making. And then, of course, Michael Jordan in the conference finals. So if I had to give a top three, it could have been those three along with Reggie Miller.
Our guest is Mr. Craig Ehlo. Craig, you played for Cleveland from 1986 to 1993, and those teams were really amazing, very strong teams, and will always be beloved in Cleveland by those who remember them, and or those who've learned about them through history. However, I'd like to back up at the beginning of your career. Your first coach in the NBA, the 1984 Houston Rockets, Bill Fitch, who started with Cleveland and was part of that memorable team in 1976. What do you remember about Bill Fitch?
Obviously, he won a championship with the Boston Celtics that I watched pretty close because I was still in college in I believe, 81. So when I got drafted by them and the Houston Rockets, that was his first year in Houston, and they had gotten the first pick in a coin flip and obviously took Ralph Sampson with that pick. And Rodney McRae was their own another first rounder. I believe he was the third pick. And then they didn't have a second rounder, and I was their third round pick. So I was caught off a little bit by surprise that because I'd heard nothing from my head coach when I was at college, George Raveling, who was walking me through all of this stuff. And so I was kind of surprised when I went there, but I got a fair chance because, they called Coach Fitch Captain Video, the drill sergeant, and everything that you can imagine. And it was exactly what I needed because he pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And, he never really played me a lot in my first 3 years, but he kept me around. And the day he had to cut me from the Rockets, was kind of a godsend and a blessing in disguise, because I got picked up by Cleveland later on that part of the year. So total admiration, I admired him so much that I can't even say the word. And he gave me a fair chance, and he made me a better player and prepared me for those years after he wasn't my coach.
Dave from Spokane, Washington. Any trash talkers you had to deal with? Any thoughts on LeBron James giving Cleveland its first title? Thought you fellas would beat him to the punch if Chicago never existed.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we used to go eat at a place in Akron, right behind the school that LeBron went to in Akron. So he watched and followed our teams, and I was so happy when Cleveland actually got to draft him. And I know it's been 2 stints, but yeah, he brought a championship to Cleveland and hung a banner up there in the rafters. And I think him and Kyrie kind of gave us a new shot to follow if you're a Cleveland fan, because the shot that Kyrie hit to win it, but it was LeBron's block that really got him to that point. And I'm so happy that the Cleveland fans got to have a parade in downtown Cleveland, because we had a lot of planning of a party of a parade, but never got to do it.
Nicole from Bridgeport, Connecticut, originally from Cleveland. Love you, Craig. Boy, I miss those days you boys all played. And by the way, long live Chief Wahoo and the Cleveland Indians. Yeah, by the way, I'm praying for Paul Dolan, and I hope that he changes. I really hope he changes the name back to the Cleveland Indians, which he could do.
It's political, obviously, and I don't know how we could get around it, but you're exactly right. An owner would have the right to name the team that he wanted, as long as he got, I guess, permission. And I didn't ever think of it being anything racial or discriminating against the tribe. And I just remember going to that old municipal stadium. I only went to one Browns game. I froze my you-know-what off. And I only went to a few Indians games because it was always cold in April when I went. So we had some great teams there when I was there in Cleveland. And I had some friends like Joe Carter, Corey Snyder, and even Albert Bell. I got to meet and be around him on the golf course a few times. So, I'm so happy that the years I was in Cleveland, that we had the Bernie Kosars and the Marty Schottenheimers, and the drive, the fumble, and the shot. It brings a lot of bad memories probably for the Cleveland sports fans. But again, all 3 of those teams had chances to win.
Yeah, and it's not just about winning championships. Again, you guys, they're very beloved teams. You guys, all you fellows who played for Cleveland in the late 80s. And now I want to talk about some of your teammates with the Rockets. Elvin Hayes.
He told me one day, I was his rookie, actually. He said, "Hey, Craig, I forgot my shoes. Go out to the car. Here's the key, and get my shoes for the game." And so I had to run out in my jersey and warm-ups out to Elvin's car. And the only pair I saw was when you cut your grass and it's green on the shoe, that's the only pair that was in there. And that's what he played in that night. But I loved history. I watched the game in the Astrodome with Lou Alcindor when the Cougars from Houston and Elvin Hayes took them on in that memorable game. And then I think even in the semifinals of the NCAA that year again. So picking Elvin's, and just the nicest guy in the world, and didn't treat me badly. He just, played the regular veteran against the rookie, and, carrying his bags from the baggage claim to the bus and all that stuff. But yeah, he was a good teammate, and I'm glad that I got 1 year in with him.
Nick from Columbus, Ohio. Wow, a show with Cleveland talents talking Cleveland memories. I can listen for hours to you both. Say hi to James Donaldson. His show on Saturday is great. Love to see how far he has come, Peter, when you and him talk.
Oh yeah, James is. He was a few years before me at Washington State, but a real project for Coach Raveling. I believe when they first he came to Washington State, he was maybe 7 foot. I think he grew to 7'2". Didn't really have coordination. They had the coach from track put him through a lot of things and help him be able to have a 17-year NBA career, and somebody that Washington State can call that they're proud of, and that he played for so long.
Another Rockets teammate, Ralph Sampson.
My last collegiate game was the second round against the number 1 seed in the West, Virginia, and it was Ralph Sampson knocked us out. And lo and behold, I become his teammate in the next year. And he remembered the game. He remembered me a little bit, not as much as I probably remembered him, but just a super talent, 7'4", agile. Next year when we drafted Olajuwon, dreamed like the left block, and that was kind of Ralph's block, but he conceded to Dream because he always dreamed of facing the basket. So he gave up that spot to Dream. And the Twin Towers took me to the NBA Finals in 1985-86 against the Boston Celtics. So I was happy that I was at least his teammate for 3 years.
Ernest from Bellingham, Washington. James Donaldson is trying to get Mark Cuban to get him in the Western Conference Finals versus the Warriors.
If anybody could do it, Mark Cuban could be the one that pulls it off. He loves, what's that, their big guy that's at the end of the bench. Doesn't see a lot of minutes. I think the Spurs drafted him. He makes a commercial with State Farm. I think James could hold his own against him. So, let's get James back in a Maverick uniform.
Another Rockets teammate, Lionel Hollins.
Oh, the Train. He was somebody that we had a couple of point guards in John Lucas and Alan Level that played most of the minutes. Train was kind of at the end of his career, and so we sat on the bench, and again, having not played a lot in those first couple of years, it was great having Train on the team because he walked me through a bunch of situations and taught me what to look for on the court. And, the only thing was he was left-handed, and his three, I think from his pinky on in, all of them were pointing the opposite direction. But, he had a great career, and I loved it when I saw him as a coach in the NBA. And we're Pac-12, or he was Pac-8, I was Pac, and now it's the Pac-12. But the Conference of Champions all hang together.
John Lucas.
Oh, Lukey. I don't know if you know, my nickname is Eggs Ehlo. That stuck with me throughout my whole career. Coach Fitz had us play shooting games on the day of games. We had shoot around. So you had a partner that you played with for breakfast, and Lukey always played me. And even if I beat him, I still had to buy him breakfast. And his favorite breakfast was Eggs Benedict. Except it became like when he hit the shot, if we were playing the 5 or whatever, he'd hit the 5th shot, walk off the court and say, "I'm having Eggs Ehlo for breakfast today." So, that moniker has stayed with me for a really long time, even today, and it's all from Lukey. And I had to do something that I guess I was second year when Lukey came, but little John was only like 4 or 5 years old, and the Galleria in Houston was the only place that had an ice rink. And Lukey had him in lessons, and I had to take Lukey to the Galleria for his skating lessons, like on every Wednesday that we were in town. And you talk about a thrill watching him come up and play through the college ranks with Baylor and Oklahoma State, and then making it in the league for a really long time. That was fun because I never had to change his diaper, but I was definitely around him when he was young.
Dale from Corpus Christi, Texas, a fellow Texan, Craig Ehlo. Hey, any thoughts on Lawrence O'Brien and David Stern, great commissioners who had great communication?
So I was coming in when O'Brien was going out. Stern was maybe his deputy commissioner at that time, but he gave the reins to somebody that had vision of increasing the league, making it better, and helping teams survive and make money. And yes, I was fortunate enough that a couple of my teams we did a European tour with the Hawks that we got to spend a lot of time with David Stern. And then when I was with the Sonics, we went to Berlin, I believe, and Munich, and played some games in Spain, and got to spend time with him again. But yeah, just I heard of like how bad it would have been for when the collective bargaining act was ever up, that if the NBA strike, that we could never get fans back. And I over that 14-year career, I only had 2 CBA agreements come up. One very early, we signed a pretty good deal, and then the second one when I was in Atlanta.
Another Rockets teammate, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Oh, this guy was special. I'd been in Houston the year that Phi Slamma Jamma was pretty good, and watching him play as a collegiate, and then getting him with the Rockets, he was wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. I mean, this guy, everything was new to him, and a new experience for him. And he loved life. He loved practice. And one of the most incredible things I've ever seen a human being do. And Kevin McKenna was with the Rockets at the same time, and we had the same agent. So Dream said, hey, he was standing on the far foul line, and he said, can Pele this kick and hit the backboard? And sure enough, he Pele's it, hits the backboard, and of course Kevin McKenna and myself got in big trouble from Carol Dawson because he thought we tried to talk Dream into doing that. And that was their $1 million baby, and he was doing a Pele kick on a hardwood floor.
Okay, you moved to Cleveland for the 1986-1987 season. Your coach in Cleveland, Lenny Wilkins.
Oh, the most incredible human being I've ever been around. His demeanor and the way he coached you, don't get me wrong, he was as competitive as the next guy and didn't like losing, but just the way he carried himself, and he got the best out of you, no matter if he never really raised his voice at any of us. He knew who he could yell at on the team, but make his point that it was really directed at, like if Mark Price kept turning the ball over and we'd come to the timeout, he'd look at me and tell me to quit turning the ball over. And Mark knew it was directed at him, but Coach Wilkins knew his team and the makeup, and yeah, he was just a great person, and wanted to, you know, bring it to his house and have a meal with him. And his wife, Marilyn, was an awesome lady also, and they did it right. When the Guns bought the team, hired Wayne Embry to be general manager. His first hire was Lenny Wilkins, and then they went through the draft and built that team that I was on.
Adam from McKeesport, Pennsylvania, heard Bill Cartwright on James Donaldson's show the other day talking about those 3 titles. Let's get a reunion going. Cleveland coming with Mark Price and Craig Ehlo.
Hey, we might have a chance now. If you know, that was one of the, I know, toughest things that the Bulls did was trade Oakley, who was a really good friend of Michael Jordan, for Bill Cartwright, but they knew that they needed a center to go through with that triangle offense, and Bill was an established guy, a veteran with a lot of savvy, and he really made those 3 championships happen, I think, for the Bulls.
Okay, some of your teammates with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Brad Daugherty.
First guy that ever so I come from Mississippi, and we are playing the Pistons Tuesday night in Cleveland. I come straight from the airport. Somebody picked me up. I don't know who it was, but they told me I was staying at the Richfield Holiday Inn, and I was like, well, how am I supposed to get there? I mean, yeah, I don't know where it is. And Big Brad said, hey, I don't know you, but he had an old Blazer that was full of shotgun shells and deer horns and everything. And he dropped me off at the Richfield Holiday Inn. And the next day we are going to the Pistons for a back-to-back. And they he picked me up and took me to the airport.
Ron Harper.
Harp was, so when I got to Cleveland, my locker was between Mark Price on my left and Ron Harper on my right. Both of these guys were rookies. Ron was up for the Rookie of the Year. Mark, I'd come in for, actually on that 10-day contract, was because of his appendicitis, so I was really in his spot, but I'm stuck between 2 stars. So, you know, there's a rose between 2 thorns, right? And that was me. And Harp, not that it had anything to do with who he was. He had a stammer, and there were a lot of times he had some big games, and he would say, like, well, I was going to do, and I said no. I would finish his sentence for him and say, I just dunked on him. So both of those guys became very good friends, and if we don't trade Harper, Danny Ferry, and Danny became a good friend of mine too, maybe our run for a championship would have been a little bit better because we had the bench and we had that nucleus of Mark, Brad, and Hot Rod that were all rookies at the same time the first year I was there in Cleveland.
Mark Price.
Best guy in the world. This guy, obviously I knew who he was in college. His Georgia Tech teams I watched pretty closely. I knew he was from Oklahoma, and me being from Texas, I figured that if we ever did meet that we would definitely hit it off. And sure enough, when I made past that 10-day contract, and Mark was still healing from his appendectomy, his wife, Laura Price, invited me and my wife, Jenny, over to their house, and the rest was history. We are still friends today. Our wives talk more than we do, to each other. But, yeah, it's a friendship that's going to last forever.
Our guest has been Mr. Craig Ehlo, who played in the NBA from 1983 to 1997. The time has flown by. Hopefully we can get you back on the show. Do you have any final words tonight for our audience, Mr. Craig Ehlo?
Oh, one of my favorite teammates in Cleveland, and another guy that gave us all nicknames was Larry Nance, and he still makes his home in Bath. And, Larry, when we got him, he got on our bus when we were in Phoenix. He's been traded, and he got on it, and from then on, he was the leader of our team. And, he was just a terrific teammate. And I think that's what made us so likable in Cleveland, was that we didn't hide out, and we were always out in public, and we just loved each other. And, yeah, I wish we could have gone further than we did.
Yeah, you'll always be beloved, all you fellows who played on those teams. Again, we're out of time. I'll call you, Craig, about scheduling another time. And thank you so much for coming on. Next week we have James Donaldson again, and 2 weeks we have Jerry Schultz, the author of 2 books, one on the Cincinnati Royals, 1957 to 1972, another on Jerry Lucas, NBA star. Dear listener, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Good night, everybody. Thanks again, Mr. Craig Ehlo.